What to do if you come across a poet in the wild. When hiking, trekking, orienteering, or merely rambling in the wild, it's possible that you may be confronted by a poet. Should such a situation arise, it's imperative to know how to react. It is prudent, of course, to travel in groups for your own safety, for should you become separated, you are far more vulnerable to attack. Not all poets are dangerous, but it's best to err on the side of safety. A working knowledge of the various species of poet will help dictate your course of action, so I will describe some of the more common varieties. The largest carnivore amongst poets is the performance poet. Clan members compete more and cooperate less than most social carnivores. The females usually dominate the males, whose obvious fear of female aggression makes courtship an often amusing spectacle. The male stands behind the reclining female, abruptly lowers his muzzle to the ground, advances quickly, bows again, then paws the ground close behind her. He retreats immediately if she responds aggressively. Males play no parental role and only a privileged few are allowed anywhere near the young. Social behaviour between males includes phallic inspection after mutual sniffing of nose, mouth, head and neck. Two poets stand head to tail and mutually sniff and touch their extended phalluses for up to 2 minutes, inside legs meanwhile cocked. Aggressive calls consist of grunting, giggling, growling and screaming. Despite their reputation as a killer of young and sick animals and as skulking scavengers around settlements, performance poets are remarkably craven when confronted. Oh shit. Sorry. My apologies. It appears I've confused performance poets with Crocuta, the spotted hyena of the Serengeti plain. An easy mistake to make. I'll start again if I may. Let's begin with some of the more innocuous varieties. The page poet, Glythica etherealis, is rarely found in the wild, preferring the safety of small writing groups and poetry and writers' festivals free of the predations of performance poets and other natural antagonists such as audiences who prefer entertainment. Strictly a terrestrial species, unable to fly without the aid of the page, they spend many hours scavenging in the word litter at the bottom of their pens and constantly rearranging their droppings in a vain attempt to attract a more robust mate to counter the effective inbreeding that threatens the existence of their species. Not considered a threat to humans who are, by and large, unaware of their existence. They are aloof, skittish creatures whose main defence is a heavily concentrated spray of meaningless, disassociated words designed to disorient any perceived attacker, allowing them to slip away in the ensuing confusion. The haiku poet, Poeticus canariensis, is named for its miniature stature and amenity for domesticity, as evidenced by its willing containment in small cages of 17 syllables or less. It is not, however, without its uses. It can be employed as a palate-cleansing sorbet, aperitif or entree prior to real poetry. Haiku on a stick certainly has novelty value if little else, or, as with caged canaries in underground mine shafts used to detect poisonous gases, its rapid demise indicates the presence of stronger poetic drafts. It can also be used as a soporific for the treatment of sleeping disorders, especially when accompanied by Japanese flute, chimes or gong. It can sometimes be found flitting about in bush fringes near writing retreats, but is a dainty species and is not considered a threat, in fact, not considered at all. The limericist, Tachyphyquiticus, is the lowest form of poet, a bottom feeder. That's all. Moving on. The rhyming poet, etc., etc., has very defined territorial boundaries and is utterly predictable in its behaviour with a strong proclivity to state the bleeding obvious. However, it is easily recognisable by the general public and has an historic relationship with humans as a stout, reliable companion beast that generally offers no threat to the imagination, although rogue mutations like Ogden Nash or John Cooper Clarke can inflict a savage bite on the funny bone. It is not generally regarded as dangerous because you can see it coming from a very long way away. It is a subspecies of the bush poet, Rhinoceros dronia profundus, the most prolific species of poet in Australia, with its habitat encompassing all rural areas no matter how remote. It is located wherever drought, bushfires, cattle, horses, drovers, dogs, drought, horses, drovers, bushfires, drovers, dogs, cattle, drovers, bear dick and blokes and chillers, and drovers, dogs and drovers can be found. Its ability to talk underwater also makes it adaptable to a marine environment. There is just no getting away from it, no matter how hard you try. And believe me, I've tried. Oh, how I've tried. It has early morning communal feeding habits called poets' breakfasts, but is a nocturnal hunter, especially after a few drinks. This is when it's at its most dangerous. Do not, I repeat, do not make eye contact, and never, ever engage with an intoxicated bush poet. Once this occurs, escape is impossible and the victim is crushed in an asphyxiating constriction of ever-tightening coils of slurred rhythm and rhyme until they drown in their own ennui. It is a slow, excruciating death. The bush poet is a relentless predator with enormous staying power. Yearly infestations occur at Tamworth, Gympie, Woodford and Tenterfield, and these are places to avoid at such times. The performance poet, Hysteria voluminous extremis. Like the rat and the cockroach, performance poets are readily adapted to urban environments, primarily favouring sewers, back alleys behind cheap cafes and underground bars in the cities. They are almost exclusively nocturnal hunters, clinging mainly to the shadows, typically camouflaged in black plumage with corresponding dark rings under their eyes before leaping out into the spotlight and stunning their victims with an amplified stream of bile and invective. They smoke and drink, but rarely eat, and although they are paradoxically very prone to putting the bite on bystanders when thirsty, so it's best to buy them a drink when approached. You could roll over and play dead, but they'd just take your wallet anyway and probably subject you to other indignities unsuitable for mention here. Loud clapping does not deter them. In fact, it just makes them bolder. They will move on like the succubi they are if you do not let them drain your energy. For they are a fidgety, frenetic, adrenaline-driven species constantly craving the applause that sustains them. Should you come across one in the wild in daylight and there is no drug or alcohol rehabilitation facility nearby, it is likely that it is lost, hungover, disoriented, highly agitated and very malodorous. Give it a wide berth. Generally speaking, it's best to apply this approach to all poets. Dubious encounters with non-poetry entertainers and artistes can also be problematic, but should these occur, just tell yourself, well, it could be verse. I hope these insights have been instructive and wish you all safe and happy hiking. Thank you. Thank you very much.